Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of The Loop. I am your host, Joe Dunbar, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Louis Robinson of Midwich and UK fame. Louis, how you doing over there, buddy?
I'm good, sir, buddy. I'm good indeed. How's things stateside?
How's tricks, as you like to say, right? I'm working that one into my
You're taking my lines.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Everything's good stateside. We've had a lot of awesome updates. There's a ton of things going on. I think topical to what we want to get into today, we're talking about a couple of things, Louis. I know we're talking about design and LED and kind of segueing that into broadcast and AV. And I think these two threads are going to follow us right through, hopefully to the end of the year and maybe even a little more. They work together. They work on their own. So we're going to talk about them a little bit. IBC was last week. So we had a lot of folks in the States over on your side of the water. And I know it was busy there, but let's dive into it, man. We've been away for a couple weeks and I want to get into the nitty gritty about it. Starting it off with LED, Louis, I know you have been mentioning the words wow factor to me a bunch in your design. It sounds like those words are coming up with your partners a lot. So why don't you tell me what you've been dealing with and seeing over there?
So I'm going to steal one of your catchphrases here and go, I'm going to dive into the weeds or get into the weeds on this one.
I love it.
So over here, I do loads of tours out of our demo facility, Innovation House. And a lot of the time when I'm touring customers, they'll come in with no knowledge of LED as a advertisement platform, as a wow factor platform. They kind of just come in and then they look at all these different LED walls that we've got and get really excited.
Right.
But they tend to come with questions too of saying to me, this isn't a space we work in. What could we do with this? We can see that you've got content running in like standard aspect ratios. A few of the walls we've got up are a little bit different and we did have some curve walls as well. But most of the people come in, they see something standard and they say to me, looks great. Loads of people are talking about it, but where do we take it to the next level? What do we do? And we take people on the journey for like literally teaching them the nuts and bolts of things like pixel pitch, right up to that. What can you do for wow factor? And one of the big projects I love to talk about is the NBA. So Absen joined forces with ASB Glass Floor, and they did a whole basketball court of an LED floor.
Wow.
And that takes that content from just advertisement around the stadium right onto the court. And you can do anything from tracking players' movements, tracking their stats. You could throw advertisement in the middle, to the sides, wherever you wanted it. So that's more ROI for businesses. And it is a huge wow factor when you can take something like a basketball court that you would typically, when you walk into an arena, know exactly what you're going to see and transform it into this fully immersive or just ROI piece of real estate, which is great for integrators because they get to talk about something new. But it's also fantastic for those end users as well that are just trying to step things up. Now, if you own a basketball team and you want to add a little bit of spice and wow factor to your home turf, what better than to illuminate the court you're playing on with anything you'd ever want to do, right?
I love that idea. I think a lot about, Louis, like especially pregame. We do a lot of projection mapping in basketball and hockey arenas, right? We see that a ton. Not that it isn't applicable in other places, but this is a real common application that a lot of people have seen. The big pregame, everyone's getting in their seat. Let's announce the teams, and we're mapping all these fantastic videos, custom made for the ice or the court. Now, the sports fan in me is going, this is great. We can move statistics and information that is normally found on scoreboards, typically direct view LED also, but like around the arena, the big ones up in the middle, there might be some on the walls or whatever. And now we can move that right to the playing surface. So now your fan that they're watching, there's a shot clock down there on. So just like when you're watching on TV, some stations will put that shot clock on the court and put everything right in that spot. It would be awesome to see that in real life. Advertising dollars are going to be the real, topic that move this conversation forward because money makes the world go around, right? So that is definitely a big application for that. Another thing I run into a lot with direct view LED, especially in the context that you're talking about, is content. A lot of people don't necessarily have a game plan for content. What I see a lot is that folks come in, it's the wow factor, they see it, they want it. So we dive into the nuts and bolts like you talked about. We got to learn about pixel pitch. We need to learn about the different types of technologies and that sort of thing. But once we land on a hardware solution, usually what I see is a lot of customers going, okay, great. What's it going to cost? It's like, hold up, this conversation isn't done. This is hardware. What do you want to put up there? What is it going to look like? Is it a standard aspect ratio? Is it on the corner of something? Does it need to have any 3D kind of aspect to it? And shout out to, I don't know if you guys have any partners on your end. Jake Berg, a friend of mine who works at a company called Render Impact. They do a lot of really cool work. We've worked with them and partnered on a couple of things. Their content creation, and they've been doing a lot of visualization of spaces. So they're rendering out a walkthrough of a space with, the direct view LED screens then on the walls or wherever they're going to be, and rendering out the content in the walkthrough so that, the end user can see exactly what it's going to look like. Not just from a physical perspective of where these screens are going to go and what it's going to look like walking through, but like, what kind of content are we putting on here? And a lot of times, if you don't have any content, they'll say, great, we'll throw some stock stuff in here. And that'll start turning the wheels. But at the end of the day, these are all a medium to get some type of messaging across. So when you're starting to go out of the non-standard aspect ratios and stuff, I mean, I can't even imagine a canvas like a basketball court.
It's just
so
that, like, you get to that part where it's like, you have to take the imagination forward, right? Forget about
right.
the technology that you're using now. Think about the canvas, like you were saying, you're talking about different aspect ratios and how we're going to lay this out in that. But you have to think about the canvas, and you have to think, like you said earlier, it's the ROI piece. You take that technology and you're transforming something for a viewer. Now, at home, when we're watching like sporting events, like you mentioned, you can have shot clocks up, you can have some stats of the player, you can have just all this information that is thrown at you when you're at home. But we want to be at the games, right? We don't want to be at home. But when you go to the games sometimes, and we've all done it, right? I've done it. I've gone to a game, and for the first, 15, 20 minutes, the buzz is real. Then
Yeah,
I'm looking for some more stimulation if, let's say, the game is a little bit slow. And sometimes the games can be slow, right? They can be,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Adding that wow factor then and just throwing elements in is going to re-trigger the mind, and it's going to get you that more viewer and into like the broadcasting space, but real life broadcasting, right? Because you're getting all what you can get on a screen, but right in front of you as the game is playing out in front of you as well.
Yeah, I love the idea that it seems so futuristic to me. I was born in the 80s. This idea seems like some Jetsons kind of material for me, but we're here and we're seeing it and it's really exciting. And to your point, that gives you, there's a big competition right now for in-person events like that. They're getting more expensive for sure. And so it's costing a person more to leave their comfort of their house, and the screens in our houses are bigger. Our entertainment in our houses is top notch these days. So they need to compete with that. And here's another way to put, butts in the seats and give somebody something worthwhile. If you're going to shell out a few hundred, dollars, pounds, whatever, to go see an event like that, then now here's something that is really creating more of an experience, which is something we're after a bunch. This does tie into, we're talking about applications in sporting venues and things like that, which does tie a little bit into broadcast. We see direct view LED utilized in broadcasts all the time from local news stations. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of studios have moved away from green screens and blue screens, and they've moved to direct view LED as their backdrops for that. So they can shoot in real time and not have to do a lot of that work in post, which is awesome. So we're seeing direct view LED morph into broadcast in AV and broadcast. These things continue to converge, right? We're seeing more and more of them coming together. I'm super excited here at Starin, man. We've got a couple of new lines. I'll rattle them off real quick because it's the thing I got to do. But, specific to the broadcast and AV space, we've added Avid, Canon, Cinedec, Telestream, Epiphan. We have LiveView and we have KiloView going right now. They just shipped the new P3 product, which is awesome. So a lot of brands coming into our space because we have our partners who need these solutions and are not necessarily, super well versed in the broadcast space, but it's continuing to converge and the technologies are continuing to kind of cross over. Are you guys seeing that on your end too? Are you getting requests for these kinds of things? Streaming is really turning this on its head, it feels like.
Oh, definitely. And I'm getting it in all walks of life as well. So typically in the role that I see in, I see more of your larger lecture theatres, atrium style streaming facilities, but it's all come from people watching broadcasts, right? They've seen on TV like council chambers, for instance. They see MPs going out doing election runs and things like that, and they're big, wide open spaces to get broadcast across the TV, across the internet. And then they're saying, how can we do this? So whenever we've got our council chambers, how can we stream out? How can we? They say video conference, and I'm like, oh, you're actually thinking broadcast here. It's a little bit different.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
most people, a similar premise, right? You're jumping in front of a camera, in front of microphones, and you're talking to people who are not there. But it's more of the broadcast space. So I'm seeing that feed in my area because obviously working in the UC space, that comes across quite a lot. But over here in the UK, we have got Holden as well, who specifically focus on broadcast. And we've got that division for a reason, right? Those guys are always getting slammed, inundated with how they do things differently. And looping back into that LED piece as well and how it works in that space. Liam Winters, oh, I'm losing my voice. Liam Winters over here in the UK works out of PSCO. He heads up our division in LED that looks after that extended reality, that augmented reality, that virtual production style suite, and all of that kind of setups. And honestly, talking to the guy, he blows your mind. He just makes that space even more exciting than it already is.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
wicked. So if you haven't already, definitely hit up Liam Winters and go and see some of the talks that he gives on virtual production, extended reality, and using all of that in the broadcast space because it's really, really cool. Really cool.
It's funny that you mentioned it, man. We are literally here. To pull the curtain back a little bit, not like it's a huge secret. We're in a Zoom meeting right now. We're capturing it using some Epiphan solutions. And then, this is a post-production thing. So it's put together and then dropped out. We do a lot of live streaming stuff too. And the broadcast streaming is kind of the ticket to your point. They do think about it a lot like a Zoom meeting, they being a lot of our end users, like a UC meeting, but it's really kind of become more of a broadcast and streaming thing. But all the tools are still applicable, right? And that's really what we were driving at in the message here. You talk about Holden and PSCO, and here we have Tool Farm and 76 Media and some of our companies within the Midwich family that help us with a lot of these brands and a lot of these projects. When somebody says something to me that triggers that conversation, I take it to a basic level, collect my information, and then I get with the team, Jeff or Rich or whoever it is from Tool Farm on our end. And then we talk about the broadcast end of it and what that really looks like, because those guys are much more versed in that sort of thing. But we're only going to see this continue. I didn't even touch on existing core brands that we have. So we're talking about overlapping, right? Overlapping in the space. PTZ Optics is a good one. Sure. I know Yamaha. I think about Aver. Like, these are all brands that have solutions, maybe have typically played in more of a UC space, but now are more and more getting into the streaming / broadcast world. I mean, PTZ Optics certainly is a gold standard for entry level broadcast and streaming stuff. And when I say entry level, I don't mean low level. I mean somebody who's ready to get serious about their streaming setups and broadcast setups. So we've got a ton of stuff. This conversation is going to continue. This certainly isn't the end of it. It's just the beginning of it. I do have, Louis, I mentioned some new lines and brands that we've added to our card, which is awesome. You guys have some news, right? I believe there's some new stuff getting added to the Midwich UK card.
We do indeed. And again, talking about Holden as well, because I believe those guys have head up this new partnership. But Midwich in the UK are going to be looking to work with DJI now, which is really, really cool. I know that slightly tie into the broadcast space when it comes to drones and things like that. It's something I'm super excited about because outside of work, I'm an avid videographer and photographer. So all of that kind of stuff, super excited. It's early days of in the partnership though. So we'll see how that goes. And as this goes on, no doubt me and you are going to be talking about it a load. I'm hoping I can get more involved with that project at some point, but that's some super cool news from over here in the UK.
That's awesome, man. Really exciting about that. Folks, we will keep the conversation going about broadcast and AV, direct view LED, and the wow factors and how they kind of apply to all these verticals and applications and where all the crossover is and convergence happens. I have a tiny Intel update that is relevant more to our UC partners before we get off here, Louis. The Intel NUC is gone. It's gone. And I say, yeah, I know. Dropping the bomb. I say this because the Intel NUC has become somewhat synonymous with small form factor PC. I see a lot of people say a NUC when they might be talking about a Lenovo Tiny or whatever. So I just want to let everybody know the Intel Nook is gone. If you're ordering bundles that had a Nook or something like that, like our Logi bundles with the Nook is very popular. We have the Logi with Lenovo bundles, which are even more popular, and those aren't going anywhere. And I know there's a partnership with Asus. I always say Asus, but I believe it is Asus. That has been launched. So those will be available in bundles too. So the Nook is gone, Asus in its place. We lean towards the Lenovo anyway. That's about the only, firmware hard form factor type note or update I have. Louis, do you have anything for the folks before we get out of here?
Firmware up to me. I'm going to go in that UC space again, just because I was with them the other day. The team at Barco have had some updates now. So on their app, when you're using like the CX50 Gen 2 in dual screen mode, you can now choose where content will go between those screens. All done in the app. Just hover over your content and it gives you the option. Fresh new update out there. Super cool, because it just gives you that added bit of flexibility again to throw your content onto the screen that you want it to go to. It's a question people ask me all the time, so it's cool to see the Barco thought about it and throwing it into the new updates.
I love that. And you know what? Just shout out to Barco. The ClickShare is a gold standard product that really revolutionized the industry and wireless sharing, some years ago. And they, especially the CX50 Gen 2, the firmware updates that they've been releasing, they have been adding features like crazy, particularly features related around dual screen setups and BYOD setups. So a lot of new features have come out for that. I appreciate the update. My friend, we will see you in a couple weeks for the next episode of that. And I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate your input. And Louis, until next time, man, we will see our folks then and we'll keep you in the loop.
Been a pleasure, Joe. As always, mate.
We'll see ya.